All right, welcome to the Championship Mindset Podcast. If 80 to 90% of success in sports and life is mindset, why aren't more people mastering it, especially early in life? Hi, I'm Spencer Sen, founder of Freedom and Healing, Championship Mindset, and the I.G.O.A.T mental method, a system blending hypnosis and neurolinguistics to reprogram the unconscious mind, the software that runs you, clearing the mental blocks and installing performance abilities like confidence, resilience, drive, motivation, and other winning mental patterns. This is a show for athletes, coaches, parents, or really anyone ready to be their best, starting as early as 10. As an athlete, my career ended early in an instant with injury. My life spiraled out of control, and years later, God placed world class mentors in my path who trained me to take back control of my mind and emotions. Now I help others do the same, and this podcast supports that calling. Today's guest is Sarah Gascon, a 20-year Team USA veteran with 200 plus international games in handball, baseball, volleyball. She captains the U.S. women's national handball team for a decade, led the first ever U.S. wheelchair handball team to a world champion silver, and holds a PhD in kinesiology plus an MBA and master's in exercise science. When she's not making sports history, she's building champions in business and life through Sarah Gascon Enterprises. Sarah, it's an absolute honor to have you here. Can I call you Captain Resilience?
Sure. It's great to be here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's awesome to be here. And like when I learned about all of your accomplishments, like when I was done, I felt like I needed a nap. I think I shared that with you before. You've built an elite mindset through competition, study. So tell us a little bit about that, your early influences and mindset roots, where you came from, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think you have to obviously start at the beginning. For me, my story, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, San Pedro specifically, so 20 minutes south of downtown LA. And I was born in the early 80s. I remember I was 2 years old and I watched the 1984 Olympic Games. Of course, it was in our backyard. And my dad worked for the LAPD. And during that time, he had to work some of the games and help out downtown. And he would come home and he would have Olympic pins and I would watch it on TV. And as I reflect now on it, I just remember sitting down watching, track and field or watching diving or just watching all these sports.
Yeah.
And like, that's when it hit me that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play for Team USA and I wanted to be an Olympian. And
How old were you?
I was 2. And that's like that's my first memory. So, and my dad and I were just talking the other day about Olympic pins, and he was, he made Olympic pins, the 1984 Olympic pins. And there was one Olympic pin that he made that when I was that young, I was obsessed with the Care Bears. And he's like, "Oh, I have a Care Bear for you." And he made a little bear pin. It was a UCLA village because some of the athletes stayed there. So it was my little bear pin. And I still travel with it today. It's one of the things that I travel with still today. But it's so funny how that one moment in time just kind of set the stage for this incredible career that I was able to live.
Wow.
And I remember being in my backyard and pretending like I was Mary Lou Retton or Flojo or, jumping off our diving board like I was Lou Gaines, so I watched all these amazing US Olympians and wanted to be them. Didn't matter what sport, didn't matter where I was. And I think that just set the stage, like I said.
So when you went out and played, like I did too, all sports all the time, did you picture yourself being one of those people or?
Oh yeah, all the time. I remember my parents have this really great picture of me. I'm on the diving board and my mom said she freaked out. I turned around, so my back was facing the water And my dad was like, just see what she's going to do. And I jumped backwards as if, I'm jumping backwards in the Olympic Games off the diving board. And my dad actually took a picture of me as I'm jumping backwards doing a flip. And, I couldn't have been more than like 4 or 5 years old, just pretending like I was an Olympic diver. And so, it was just a part of my life at a very young age. It like hit my heart and my soul. And that's what I knew I wanted to do. And from that point on, it was everything from that point on was me playing sports. So whether it was in the backyard playing with my siblings or my parents, or playing at school with the boys at recess and lunch, or even playing, YMCA or at the Boys and Girls Club, it didn't matter. My life revolved around being an athlete.
Yeah. And so like playing with the boys, right? So
Yeah.
you were here with me before we came on back then, which you reminded me of, because I'm older than you by quite a bit, that there was no sports for girls, really, correct?
Yeah. Title IX was still, it was only like 10 years old when I started getting into like more of the school play.
Yeah.
And so it was, it was still a very young thing for girls. But when I saw women playing sports, I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And, these early inspirations. And I remember watching in the early 90s, the Silver Bullets. I watched these women playing baseball and, barnstorming around the country. I don't know if people remember that, but I just remember watching them on TV and saying, I want to play for the Silver Bullets. That's what I want to do. And I was playing baseball with the boys at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. So the childlike curiosity, doesn't sound like you had much fear of failure.
No.
You just went. Candidly, I mean, that's something that we all need to keep in mind is living life now, regardless what you're doing, with that childlike sense of curiosity, and just live and be, right?
Yeah.
It just creates opportunities. And you probably had some type of something to overcome when you were actually competing against boys, right?
Yeah, well, it was interesting as a little girl playing with the boys. I got teased as a kid. I got teased by the girls because I'm a girl and I'm playing with boys. And so you could only imagine the names that people would come up with. But, and even the boys would tease me as well. But as soon as they went to pick teams, they always picked me. It's not like I was one of the last people to be picked. They picked me because I was really good at sports as a kid. And so whether it was at recess time or lunchtime, it's not like I was the last kid picked. I was one of the top kids that was picked. And so, boys, that was what I learned when I reflect again on my youth is boys are really interesting. And I'm very grateful that I grew up playing against the boys because it taught me a lot of different things about competition. And at the end of the day, the boys, they want to win. And, girls are a little bit more social and they like everybody to get along and have a good time. And, with the boys, it was, it's very binary. You win or you lose. That's it. Yeah. Right. And so I had to navigate. So I was in alignment more with the boys growing up. And then as I got older and as I competed on these national teams, not all women had that experience. And so my USA baseball team, a lot of them had that experience because they were baseball players and you could only play baseball with the boys. There's still no girls baseball. But so they had I was more in alignment with them and their mentality, but my volleyball and handball teammates, they played with girls growing up. And so it was just a different type of environment that I had to navigate. And I had to learn how to communicate differently because it's not, it is about the team at the end of the day. And it is also about getting along and being a great teammate. And how is that defined and what does that look like? And it's different for everybody.
For sure. Being aware, understanding that, and essentially it sounds like it's possible that the boys could have helped you accelerate more faster, but you were willing to be aware and have an open mind and not have that fear of going forward. And you just did it, and then the results just kind of started to happen from there. It sounds like,
Yeah.
and as well as your interest grew, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was very competitive as a little girl. So I wanted to beat out my siblings all the time at everything. You asked about inspiration. I wanted to be my brother. My brother was a very good athlete and he was a couple years older than me and I wanted to beat him at everything. And he was always bigger, faster, and stronger than me, of course. And then also my parents were very influential in my life, teaching me how to play. My dad teaching me how to play baseball, play catch and hit left-handed and right-handed. We used to go to the park and he used to hit us ground balls, or we used to play pickle, or just all kinds of fun stuff. And my mom was a super athlete when she was growing up, and we would play basketball, or she's the one that actually taught me how to play volleyball at a park. And so my parents were very influential in my athletic career, and I owe them a lot of credit as well. And then also my siblings, playing with your brothers and sisters is super important as well, because those are your first teammates. And so understanding how to collaborate and coordinate and work together and, obviously fight a little bit and then you figure out how to solve problems. But yeah, sure. I mean, we were a tight knit group, and I mean, we still are, but yeah, a lot of my, I would say a lot of inspiration came from my parents and my siblings.
Yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate you sharing all of that, because I mean, people need to hear this type of goodness. This is what you're talking to about is, your family, your environment, and that's where all the programming starts, right? Like we were talking about before, from birth on. And when you have that support system, when you have that freedom to be yourself and to take risks and to explore and to just do what you explained, and then have that support system where you've got your family there. I mean, families have been becoming divided over time for a while now, and the results are showing. So it's good to hear that story from you and see and recognize all of that support and all of that environment that is a major part of who you are and the results that you've been able to achieve. So that's awesome. So I mean, navigating setbacks, pressures, shifts in your life, across your transitions, your athlete to captain to student to strategist, as you started to grow and navigate and you got these the successes that came in these different sports fields, what was it? Fear of failure, overcoming mental blocks, performance anxiety, did confidence dip, all of them? I mean, how did you turn pressures into performance, into the results that you've had?
I feel like at a very young age, I never really actually felt pressure. I don't mean that in a egotistical way. It's just that I, as a young kid, always thought I could be better. And I'm an athlete. I like to chase stuff. So I like to chase somebody that's better than me. I want to be better than them. So I think that when you talk about mindset, I think that's where my mindset is. Like I talked about my brother. I wanted to be better than him. I knew I wasn't as good as him and I wanted to be better than him. Or at least I thought I wasn't as good as him. So I wanted to be better than him. And so same with the boys, same with playing with the boys. The boys are bigger, faster, and stronger sometimes. But I wanted to beat them out. I wanted to be better than them. And, my dad jokes now, he's like, you were as good as they were, if not better. Of course that's my dad saying it, but
right.
Yeah, but
that's awesome.
Yeah, but when I started playing with the girls in school, I remember I was in 5th grade. I had been playing volleyball already for over a year, I would say. So as a 5th grader, most 5th graders are, they're serving the ball underhand, and I'm already serving the ball overhand. So I already know all of these skills because my older sister was learning how to play volleyball. And so when she learned how to play volleyball, so did I. And so I picked it up right away. And in 5th grade, I remember they wanted the 8th grade coach, the 8th and 7th grade coach, she wanted me on the varsity team. So they put me on the varsity team. And of course, what had ended up happening is some 7th and 8th graders were really upset that a 5th grader was playing on the team. So played on the team for a few games, and then they had to drop me back down to the little JV, even though I was clearly more skilled and better than a JV level. But, that was back in the 80s and early 90s. So it's a different time. But
politics.
I always played above. I always played above my age and played above my level. I was 13 years old when I played on my first club team, and I was playing on an 18 and under club team. Again, I didn't have the mentality that like I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, or I'm afraid that I'll make a mistake. Making a mistake was never even on my radar. I was not even aware of it until I got much older. And I think a lot of that had to do with, I viewed sports as something that was so fun because it was competition, and I loved competition. And I did hate losing. I still hate losing. And I enjoyed winning, but more than winning and losing, I love competing. Everything about competition, I love it. And I love it more than, the wins and the losses, of course. But I think I rely on my training. I am just a student of every game that I've ever played. I am obsessed with it. And I think that that's what has given me the confidence throughout the years, is that because I have this love and passion for sports and competition, and I want to be the very best I could possibly be. And I know that I have to study it, and I have to study other players to learn their skills or learn how they do certain things and improve my performance. I think that has given me an advantage and has allowed me to compete at the highest level a woman can compete in. And for as long as I was able to compete in, which is, obviously there's other elements, but when you can stay sharp in your mind, there's no stopping you.
Yeah. And you touched on it too, where discipline. Mm-hmm. Discipline is a mindset function, right? And It sounds like as you had these successes and you began to learn more and grow more, you were able to have not just the natural ability, the environment, the support, the drive, right? Sounds like you had the discipline to be able to focus and then do what it took. Like you said, study, learn, grow. You know what I mean? All of that stuff is part of it. You can't just show up and get the results, right?
Right.
Keep going. And then I get a sense that you also have a pretty open mind about things, where it helps you integrate other information to even propel you further. Am I picking that up right?
Yeah, absolutely. And life is different now in 2025 than it was in the 1980s, 1990s, and early 2000s. And back then, especially in the 90s, I was going to high school in the 90s, and I was able to play 3 sports in high school and also play travel softball and also play club volleyball. So I played all of these sports, and it was at the end of the 90s, when I guess mid to the late 90s, when people started specializing in sports a little bit more. And so in high school, that's when I started getting pressure from other coaches that I should stop playing other sports because I wasn't going to play multiple sports in college. And I was like, yes, I am. Of course I am. I'm a multi-sport athlete. Of course I'm going to do it. And so, I remember it was just a natural thing for me. Like, I played 3 sports in one day on a Saturday. I played volleyball, basketball, and softball in the same day for either club or travel ball or my high school. So, it was just like kind of a natural process. And then when people said I couldn't do something, it was more like switch was flipped. Yes, I can. Watch me, and I'm going to show you. And then in college, that's what I ended up doing. I ended up playing 3 Division I sports in college. I played softball and volleyball for 4 years. And then my 5th year, I played soccer. So, I never allowed people, and again, I have to give a lot of credit to my parents. They never pressured me at all. And they always said, well, if you want to do it, go and do it. Like, we'll help you, we'll support you, we'll do whatever we need to do to make sure that you follow your dreams. So go and do it. And because they were like that, it allowed me to just go all in on what I wanted to do. And I was super disciplined. I didn't go to high school parties, and I didn't really hang out late, and I didn't do some things that normal high school kids do, because I played every day. I don't think I had a day off. I played every day.
So the 3 Ds, discipline, determination.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And I hope people are taking note of this stuff, whether they're parents, if the kids ever see this episode, because what you're explaining, like, gets me excited because it reminds me of when I was an athlete, and that's exactly how I was. And I was only focused on everything that you covered.
Yeah.
I never expected to all of a sudden injury, bam, done.
Yeah.
That blew me away. It blew my world apart. But we as human beings know that sports are going to end at some point. For you,
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe you're going to change. Maybe you're going to prove that wrong, like you proved everything else, right? But
Yeah.
the key to, like, in today's world, as a coach myself now, seeing kids that they're just not having the 3Ds and the other stuff, and which equals they're not having any fun. Bringing that back, and this, like, just the love of doing it, the competition, all of the stuff. I thank you for sharing all of this. I mean, and reminding parents that, and coaches, what's the best thing that we can do for the athlete is let them be themselves. You know what I mean? Build them up. Don't push them too hard based on mistakes. I've learned, especially with helping people now overcome these things, they're necessary.
Mm-hmm.
They're necessary to happen to become better. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
you can't succeed at everything if you don't fail as well with it. So they're just as important. Success and failure, adjust, focus, all of that kind of stuff. So very good stuff. So now I want to go into working with the USA wheelchair team. Okay, one of your most groundbreaking chapters, I guess,
Yeah.
because I don't even know, all those other things are pretty impressive as well. But leading the inaugural wheelchair handball team to a world championship silver, that's history, right?
Yeah. That's huge.
So
It is
yeah. So talk
huge.
about that. What challenges did those? What challenges do you see? How those athletes face? How they handle them? That were unique, and what did they share with every competitor, and what they did at that elite level?
Yeah. So with sports, and you talked about injury, I've been injured several times and have had several surgeries.
Yeah.
And when I've had those surgeries, my post-op and my rehab has been at Olympic training centers. So either in Lake Placid or Colorado Springs. So when you're in those training centers, you get to interact with other athletes. Those are both Paralympic athletes and Olympic athletes, or Olympic hopefuls and Paralympic hopefuls. And so my first kind of interaction with adaptive athletes were in those training facilities. Now, talking to them and hanging out with them is one thing. Watching them train, it'll put you will sit there in awe of them and watching them in a weight room because they're just incredible, the things that they could do with their body. So
Wow.
fast forward to me being here at Auburn University, we moved our national teams here back in November of 2013. That's the men's and women's team handball national team. So Auburn University had an agreement with USA Team Handball to basically have a residency program in the School of Kinesiology. And in the School of Kinesiology, you have all kinds of labs. You have the psychophysiology labs, you have the muscle physiology labs, you have the biomechanics, motor learning, motor development. You have all kinds of cool stuff at the School of Kinesiology. So when we moved here, and I moved here January of 2014, and then I thought, wow, it'd be a really great idea for me to earn my PhD in kinesiology, because why not? Like, you should obviously try to train for the Olympic Games and do a PhD at the same time. So I
There you go.
applied
I
to,
feel busy.
yeah, crazy. I was crazy, but I applied to be a potential doc student in the School of Kinesiology. I was accepted, and I was in biomechanics, and I met my really good friend, Ford Dyke, Dr. Dyke. Ford was doing his PhD at the same time, and he tried out for the men's national team and made the men's national team. So he's doing his PhD, and I'm doing my PhD. And then my teammate, Jency Rhodes, Dr. Jency Rhodes, they're like my two best friends in the school of kinesiology. We're earning our PhDs together and we're playing handball together. So we become friends. We teach classes together. We've been friends this whole time. Jency and Ford retire from handball and they're still here. Dr. Ford Dyke is a professor now in kinesiology, and Dr. Jency Rhodes, she's teaching a couple of classes, but then she's also working for another company. Well, they called me last year and they said, hey, Sarah, we have some like interesting news. And of course, I'm always joking with them about them being married and all other kinds of stuff, having a family and whatnot. And they're like, no, like, look at this. And so they send me this story about wheelchair handball. And they said, we're going to start a U.S. wheelchair handball team here. And I send them a message back and I'm like, could I be your team mom? And they're like, Sarah, like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm down to have a good time with you guys and, you know, learn the sport of adaptive sport, wheelchair handball, and go to Egypt. I've never been to Egypt. That's on my bucket list. So yeah, I would love to go to Cairo. And so a couple of days later, Ford messages me and he's like, yeah, can you actually be our team leader? The team leader is basically your logistics person. They're like the operations. They kind of handle everything about everything outside of like picking the team. Okay. And Ford's like, Sarah, you have been in the USOPC for forever. Like, you know, the ins and outs and you know, all the rules and you know, like things that we need to do and what we shouldn't do. And he's like, because you know, all of that, can you please just handle that? Because I won't be able to do that and do these other things. And I said, of course. So he asked Rita Clanton, who's a 1984 Olympic athlete in team handball and a 96 coach for team handball. That's how we actually came to Auburn University, was because of her. She lives here and went to school here. Okay. He asked her to be his first assistant coach. And then Lisa Egan, who's a 96 Olympian on the women's national team. And then Eric Finch as the goalie coach, who Ford and Eric played together here at Auburn. And so long story short, we get our staff together and Ford was crazy recruiting athletes. And Ford has been in the adaptive space for about 10 years now. He had worked with Coach Rob Thomas. Coach Rob for Auburn University, who is the wheelchair basketball coach here at Auburn. So Coach Rob was also the head coach of the wheelchair national team for the men's wheelchair basketball team. So they've been together, coaching together for 10 years. And obviously Coach Rob, he knows a lot of different athletes, a lot of different coaches. And so that's kind of how Ford started recruiting a bunch of athletes. Gotcha. And it just turned into us bringing in about 50 different athletes and evaluating them. And then before you know it, we were selecting, there was only 10 athletes we were allowed to select. We also needed to select women athletes because the sport is a co-ed sport, which is different from beach and indoor. And so we selected 3 women and 7 men, and everybody thought that we were going to get beat up and we were going to show up and come in last place. And before you know it, we were in a gold medal game. And it's just kind of like this crazy experience that you're just totally surprised by. But it was the most rewarding experience that I've ever had, because their mindset, they never think they can't do something. They always think that they can do something. Yeah. And so it's very inspiring. It's humbling. And, you know, when you're around them, it makes you just feel like you want to be better, because the way that they live life and the way that they play sport, it's just truly inspiring.
Yeah, I can feel that when you say that it would make you want to be better.
Yeah.
Just be more, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. It sounds like it was something that was meant to happen for sure.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And it's Rob Taylor, who's at Auburn University, not Thomas Taylor. I apologize. He might kill me, but yeah, I mean, so we had our other team, our second team, we came in this year, and we had a friendly series. France was hosting a friendly tournament. And so we just came back about a month ago from Lyon, France, and we brought home a bronze.
Wow.
So half the team was brand new. We held another tryout, a couple of ID camps. And so we had new athletes come in. And so now our player pool, we have about 26 athletes in our player pool that we've selected, and we get to pick the top 10 from there to go to the tournaments. And so we're 2 for 2 right now in our tournaments, which is really impressive and unheard of, actually. Wow. So yeah.
Congratulations. I mean, that's special stuff. And to get people to follow that more, like I told you, I didn't even know there was that even existed, but super proud of you for doing that. That's inspiring. So like a legacy mindset, like a final takeaway with everything that you've seen and achieved, how would you define mindset? If you could leave, like if young athletes see this, coaches, parents, with one belief, one truth, or one powerful piece of advice, what would it be? What do you wish someone told you when you were younger?
I think that's a difficult question for me to answer, because I think my parents actually did teach me this. My dad, he's a big John Wooden fan, and he used to talk about John Wooden all the time when I was a little girl. And I was obsessed with UCLA. I loved UCLA. So, and something my dad talks about still, make every day your masterpiece. And I think that that's not said enough anymore. And when you think about that specifically, what does that mean? Because as you said earlier, there are some highs and lows in life, and how do you navigate that? And I think when you wake up in the morning and you have that in your mind, what does my masterpiece look like for today, even though I don't want to get out of bed? What is one win that you can get for that day? And just start with that. You don't want to go too high and you don't want to go too low. You kind of want to stay in the middle. But I think that the way that Coach Wooden coached and lived his life, and he lived his life every day as his masterpiece. And I think he's somebody that I wish more people talked about. I mean, people talk about him, but maybe kids. I hope kids can read some of his literature, because it's incredible and inspiring. And if you just sit with it, I think that could be the start of a change that you hope to see in yourself.
Sure. Be grateful, be humble. I tell this to my granddaughter, my kids all the time. Be grateful, be humble, do your best, be grateful for the possibility that you're here, that you have the ability to breathe, live, do, be, absolutely. So, Sarah, that was exceptional. Good perspectives, insight, and a lot of it pure gold. So the way that you've navigated elite performance and adversity and still made room for empathy and leadership, and then more and more, it just goes on. You're just like defying the odds. That's what people need to hear. All of the D's, right? Drive, discipline, all of that. Thank you, Sarah, for being here, sincerely. And thanks to everyone for watching live and on the replay. If today's conversation with Sarah sparked something in you, a moment of clarity, a shift in perspective, or a deeper curiosity about your own mindset, pass it on to somebody. People need these type of messages in their life more than ever. Share this with an athlete, a parent, a coach, or anyone feeling stuck, that's carrying too much, pushing through blocks, or silently asking, how do I build my confidence and get better results? Every person's experience matters, and every person matters. Sometimes hearing someone else's truth is what flips the switch in people's own life. So, Sarah, before we close, where can listeners follow you, connect, or reach out with any questions?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. So feel free to message me on LinkedIn. You can also find me on Instagram. I am happy to also contact you or talk to you on Instagram. I do have a X account as well, so you can find me there. I like to be on that as well. Or feel free to email me. My email address is sgascon4@gmail.com.
Cool. Awesome. And to everyone else tuning in, you can follow me on YouTube, Championship Mindset -1, on Facebook at Championship Mindset, LinkedIn, Spencer Sen, and Instagram at Championship Mindset 1. Look for the black logo with the white mountains. And if you're ready to reclaim your focus, rewire limiting beliefs, and actually manage your emotions and take back control of your own mind, not just suppress them, go to freedomandhealing.com and schedule your free discovery call. And on that call, we'll talk about the I.G.O.A.T method and advanced mindset mapping, where it's designed to really help you train your brain immediately, regulate your state, start leading your life, not reacting to it. Okay, mindset is your foundation. Let's upgrade it. Elevate your mindset, elevate your game, and we'll see you next time.